Hey there, Mama, and welcome back to the Moms Overcoming Overwhelm podcast, episode number 207. I'm Emily McDermott, and I'm here beside you on this journey as we work together to declutter your home, head, and heart. I have the special privilege of speaking to Miss Robin Reynolds today. She is a certified professional organizer, a published author, and we're going to be talking about her new book in this episode, and sought after expert in the organizing world. And she, kind of like me, had the breadcrumbs, knew that she was destined to organize long before she knew it was going to be a career. And what began as a passion for tidying up her own spaces just for fun eventually evolved into Organize to Harmonize, a thriving professional organizing business. So we are talking about her new book, What is Your Clutter Costing You?, which is coming out in October. And there's information in the show notes today about how if you pre-order, you can get a special workbook that can accompany the book. And we always talk on the podcast about what clutter is stealing from us, our time, our energy, our focus, attention, all of these things. And so Robin and I dive into that today. And before we jump into the conversation, I wanted to let you all know that Monday, September 15th, is my birthday and also the 3-year anniversary of this podcast, which is kind of hard to believe. I have been doing weekly. At one point I was doing 2 a week for 3 years, which is just, like I said, mind blowing. And so in celebration of this, I am going to be doing another giveaway. We do these periodically on the podcast. You can find out more in the show notes, but if you haven't left a rating or review in Apple Podcasts or even Spotify, then that would be one way that you could give me a little happy birthday present that would help grow the show. And if you've already done that, you don't need to do it again. It won't count twice. But what you can do is you can share the show with a friend or family member over text or social media. Either way, you'll need to share the screenshot with me by sending it to info@simplebyemmy.com. And when it comes to those reviews, especially in Apple Podcasts, it takes a couple days for them to show up. So my recommendation is that you do the screenshot before you submit. So again, all the information is in the show notes, and I am going to be announcing the winner. I'm going to be giving away 2 $50 Amazon gift cards. And so I will be announcing the winners of those in the next episode. So again, thank you so much for your support. And without further ado, grab your notebook and pen and let's dive into today's conversation with Robin Reynolds. Hey Mama, are you tired of your cluttered home and mile-long to-do lists but are too overwhelmed to know where to start? Do you lack the time and motivation and don't think you'll ever conquer the clutter? You're in the right place. I'm Emily, wife, boy mom, and declutter coach who has overcome the overwhelm in my own life through decluttering and simplifying. I believe every mom deserves the peace that comes from a clutter-free home. Ready to get your life back? Let's declutter your home, head, and heart together. Well, hi, Robin. Thank you so much for coming on the Moms Overcoming Overwhelm podcast. I am excited to chat today.
I'm really excited to be here. It was a nice surprise when you messaged me.
Yeah, well, I've been looking on Amazon for books that are coming out all about decluttering and organizing. And the name of your book really struck me because when I speak to moms through the podcast or if I speak in person, I'm always talking about the things that clutter's stealing from us. And so to have your name of the book, What is Your Clutter Costing You? I'm like, oh my gosh, she totally gets it. Like, I can't wait to read this book. And it was just an incredibly helpful, practical book. But then also you got into some aspects, especially on the energetic side, that I hadn't really thought very much about.
Right.
So I'm excited to talk about all the things, but first I'd love it if you can introduce yourself and tell us about you, your family, how you serve others, and maybe like one thing you like to do for fun.
Okay, so I'm Robin Reynolds. I am a certified professional organizer. I've had my business for almost 17 years now, and I kind of fell into it. I never knew that organizing was a thing. And I was actually reading a magazine one day and it mentioned the National Association. And I was like, what? I could do that for a living? Like, because it's something I always did anyway. And I was so thrilled to learn that something that I just enjoyed doing, I could actually make a career out of. So here we are, all these many years later. And I have been raising my daughter as a single mom since she was 5. She just turned 21, and I'm here actually at college, at her college, celebrating with her. So that was really fun. It's really just her and I, for the most part. There's extended family, but just her and I. And I like to volunteer a lot. So I'm very involved with an organization that helps foster kids called Kids Save Find Forever Families, or I should say older foster youth. And I've been involved with them for, I don't know, maybe 10 years or more. And I've even had foster child also myself. And what do I like to do for fun? I don't know if it's fun, but I work out every day. It's kind of like breathing. So I'm not sure if that's fun or just sustainability for me. But it is, there are days I like it, there are days I don't like it. But that's something I really enjoy. And I like my daughter and I actually like thrifting a lot too. We love going to thrift stores.
Oh, love that. Oh, I love that so much. Yeah. Well, I similarly fell into it like when I was a child in elementary school, we would have indoor recess sometimes, and
Oh,
I would like cleaning out other kids' desks for fun instead of like doing puzzles or whatever. I don't know. And so that was like one of my clues, one of the breadcrumbs that was like,
right, right,
oh, okay. And then to be able to do this for like a profession is just amazing. So I
right,
totally
right.
understand. And so, okay, we're going to dive into all things books
Okay,
because poor Robin, I email her all these questions because I I take notes, like thorough notes, and then I'm like, oh, I want to ask her all the things. So we're talking about what clutter is costing us, and
right.
you talk about four things: time, space, money, and energy. So we're going to start with time. And I just love this because I always say, what takes up your space takes up your time. A lot of times people don't think about the connection there. But one of the things you bring up in the book, which I find is really interesting, is about when you're in a cluttered environment, it's difficult to find things, right? And there's sort of this stress cycle, which again kind of impacts our ability to manage our time. It's sort of like this vicious cycle.
Right, right.
So,
No,
can you tell us about the connection between that? Because I don't think a lot of people think about that aspect of it.
right. Well, when you're living in a cluttered space, usually it's because people aren't taking those extra seconds. And when say seconds, I mean seconds to actually put things back where they belong. And maybe it's because they don't actually have a place where they belong. So they have to set up those systems first. But the thing is that it's kind of like it'll spiral throughout your day because if you're frantic looking for things, then you're going to carry that energy over into the rest of your day a lot of time, trying to rush out of the house, whether it's with kids or getting to work or whatever, whether you're looking for your keys, your phone, the permission slips, the whatever it is that you're looking for, you still kind of take all that with you, certainly out of the house, and it can spiral into bad things. Sometimes you're rushing too much, you have an accident, you run a stop sign, you get a ticket, like all these things. So you just need to be able to breathe and not have everything so rushed. So, and that rushing is because things don't have a home, and that's the basis of being organized is for everything to have a home and you know where it is and where everyone else in the home knows where that item is and gets back to that home. Because a lot of time it comes out, but it doesn't go back.
Oh, yes. And the audience is a lot of moms with kind of younger kids, and especially when trying to get them out the door to the bus, people think that I'm a bit strange because I have two boys. Maybe the fact that they're boys has something to do with it, but they have like one pair of sneakers each.
Right,
And part of it is because we don't want to manage more sneakers. I mean, I can afford more sneakers, which is nice,
right,
but I don't want to, where's my shoes? Like where's my backpack? Where are these things? We don't ask those questions in the morning. And so we're not late for school and it doesn't have that snowball effect throughout the day
right,
because I feel like it is that snowball effect and just being able to, at a very basic level, know where things are when you need them just impacts not only our stress levels, which we're going to talk about a little bit with our energy and our stress, but also, like you said, like that just the time. I've never met a mom that says, "Oh, I have so much time to do everything I want to do." It would be nice, but yeah, I find that just kind of these basic systems, having these basic systems in
Right.
place, which professional organizers or declutter coaches can help with, then it's like, okay, now we can get out the door on time. And then the trajectory of your day is like so much better going forward.
Right. Yeah, but in all honesty, there are many things that people have conditions or modalities that, make organization a little bit more challenging. And that's the part that when people really need help, it's sometimes that we're just so busy. We all live busy lives. We have multiple kids sometimes, and just we're doing a lot of things. You may have a full family and then also work a full-time job. There's just so much going on in life now that you need the system set up. So whether you're setting those up yourself or setting someone else is helping you to set those up. And I'm a believer that it is never too early to teach your kids responsibility, whether that's in put your backpack, you come in the house from school. I don't care if they're 4. My daughter's had chores since she was 5, even if it was just emptying the bathroom garbage. Take it out, put it in the big garbage, put a new bag in. So all these little things, put your backpack where it goes. You came in from school, put it where it goes. You took out one toy, put it away before you take out 10 more, because that way you don't end up doing all these things and just following behind them, cleaning up everything. And they're learning in the process so that they can become more organized as they grow older.
Yes. I'm going to say yes and amen to that. I am totally on board with that. And my children, my boys are 7 and 9, and we're trying to give them more responsibility. But
Right.
one of the things I heard from somebody else that I love is if they leave something somewhere, I go, who are you leaving that for?
Ah, that's a good one.
And then they're like, you? I'm like, no, that's not the right answer. Try
Like, no,
again.
that's not my
Yes.
toy. That's not my Lego. I don't want to play with that. You could put that away for me.
Exactly. So that's been working really well for us, but
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely love that. And I know in the book you talk about space, you talk about money, so I want people to be able to know that that's in the book too, but I really want to focus on the mental load and the energy part. And the reason is that we're dealing with overwhelmed moms here that are constantly saying, I have so much going on in my brain. I have so many tabs open. I don't have energy to do anything I want to do, let alone the things I have to do.
Right.
So I would love it if you could talk about what you see as the connection between physical and mental clutter and sort of the impact that it has on our ability to focus, to be productive, and kind of how that connection happens.
Sure. So when you have physical clutter, you see it, obviously. It's all over the place. No matter where you go, it's there. And it's a constant reminder. And it's almost like when you see it, you tense up a little bit more, because you know it's there. You don't want it to be there, but it's there. So it literally is stressing you out and it gives you angst and overwhelm. And you're just like, you have to deal with it, but it's just one of those things that when am I going to have time? How am I going to do it? And for a lot of people, it's like, I don't know how to start. So the way that the clutter crowds your space is that it's crowded the same way the clutter is crowding your space, it's clouding your mind at the same time. Because all those thoughts are always constantly in your head that, yes, I have to deal with it. And yes, I have to do this, or it's that, or I have to, I'll do it after I take the kids to school, or I have to do this. It's always just a constant, kind of like a hamster on a wheel. It just doesn't stop. It's just going, 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 going. So you have to allow yourself to at least breathe for a moment, instead of constantly running around. But it is you're always it's one thing after another. So the physical is really impacting you. And when your mind is cluttered like that, because it's always racing, you are having a harder time focusing, which means you're having a harder time being productive and actually doing the things that you need to do. Because how many times do we have a list of things that we want to do during the day, but then we get derailed for one reason or another, or we just look at the list and we're like, no, don't feel like it, or we go to start and it's like, no, you don't know how to start doing something or whatever. And it's just a constant stressor. So it really has a huge impact on what you end up doing throughout the day or week or month or whatever. there's such a huge connection between all of this. And I hope that explains it in
Yeah.
a way that makes sense. Because sometimes like my brain works faster than my mouth. So, and my brain is going, okay, say this, say that, say the other thing. And I'm like, did I say it? Does it make sense? I
No,
don't know.
you're doing great. You're doing great.
So with that, it also makes it harder to make decisions on things. All this is always constantly there. So it really has a huge impact on how you function in your day and the things that you actually do or get done.
Yeah, and you mentioned in the book the idea of residential productivity, just is kind of what you're talking about, like the things that
Right.
we have to take care of. And if your mind is constantly racing, and sometimes I think about clutter as like the physical manifestation of undone tasks. So either
Mhm.
it's, unmade decisions or undone
Right.
tasks, like things that we have to do. And I feel like this was in your book, and if it wasn't, I apologize because you give
I'll
you
put it
give
in the updated version.
I know. You give a lot of great examples from clients in your book. And one that's coming to mind, which I hope is from your book, is about, not being able to find a permission form for a field
Yeah.
trip and then showing up and, the bus is leaving. And like, it's again the ripple effect
Yeah.
of, okay, one of the things I need to do is know what forms my children need in order to go on the field trip. That's like a basic thing.
Right.
However, if it's in a
And when it's
pile,
due.
yeah, if it's in a pile of a bunch of stuff and then you're late and you have to take them somewhere else, and it's just like, again, the connection between that productivity and then also the time and everything, it
Mhm.
has a huge impact on our lives. And a lot of times we might be able to just say, oh, well, it's just because I'm so busy and I have so much going on, and we
But
don't
it's the
recognize, yeah,
consequences. It's the consequences of what happens when you have all these other things that you're not taking care of or that you don't, have systems in place for. Because that's a huge consequence. Now, unfortunately, the child had to suffer for that consequence, but it also teaches her or the mom that okay, I have to change the way I do X, Y, and Z because I don't want the child to suffer again,
yeah.
or something else happen. Because for anything, there is a consequence, good or bad. And this one, it just happened to be a really bad one.
Yeah, and I feel like as parents, a lot of times we're trying to teach our children about like the natural consequences of things. And so, just seeing the examples of our own lives, and I try to be very cognizant of that and say, okay, because I made this mistake, this is what happened. And
Right,
so it's also good from a parenting perspective to be able to say, okay, I messed up. I apologize. This is what I'm doing to try to do something differently
right.
so that, we don't have this happen again. And I think that goes a long way with kids. I mean, regardless of the age, but especially as they maybe get older, and
Yeah,
it just is really impacting maybe their lives at school or their social lives or these things that end up being more important as they get older.
yeah.
So I, yeah, really appreciate that as a parent too. Okay, so we're going to move a little bit into energy now. And
Okay.
I'm very excited because some of this stuff is like things I know, but then some are kind of new to me. And as far as like clutter being this energetic drain, which so many people tell me I don't know either. I don't know where to start, or the thought of starting is so overwhelming and I feel like it's going to take so much energy. I don't have the motivation to do it. And so, can you talk a little bit about how clutter drains our energy and then causes us to be less motivated to declutter in the first place?
That's the biggest thing that people say all the time. Like, I don't know where to start. Even when I work with clients, they're like, well, I tried to do such and such, but I didn't know where to start. It's kind of like the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You're not going to clear it all up at one time, or it's not going to happen in 5 minutes because it didn't get there in 5 minutes. So you just have to start small and start in one little area. But, yes, it does drain you of your energy because it takes, now you have to expend energy to actually deal with the clutter, and depending on how much you have, it may take, hours, it may take days, depending on what it is that or how you're living. And no one expects you to be able to do it, or the entire house all in a day, because that's just not your natural order anyway. So you just need to do a little bit to be able to see some progress. The one thing I will say is definitely start and complete one room before you go over to start in another room, because you actually want to see your progress. Because if you just do a little something, you're not really seeing it, and then it defeats you and you get less motivated to do anything else. But sometimes, and often for budgetary reasons, a client may start working with me, and it's kind of like I give them a jump start. They may just book one session, but it gives them a jump start to be like, oh, I was able to do this, that, and the other thing. I just worked with a client recently, and I was just checking in with her because I worked with her about a month ago, and she's like, yeah, I want to continue. And I checked in with her, and she's like, you helped me so much. I've been able to do X, Y, and Z by myself. So I'll just let you know if I need you to come back. So sometimes just being able to give them that jump start, but you can do the same thing for yourself by just starting in one little area, making that progress, setting up those systems for yourself. And it could be stuff, the systems can be very simple, whether it's where do you put the backpacks when you come in for school? Where do the kids do their homework? If they do the homework at the kitchen table or the dining room table, but that's also where you eat, then have maybe some sort of box or container where you put all the supplies, the pencils and the crayons or whatever you need for school to do the homework, so that you can put it back in that box or container and be able to still use that table for your meals. So there are ways that you can do things without getting overwhelmed, but I think the most important thing to remember is to be gentle with yourself, because it didn't happen overnight, so it's going to take time. But I know I'm getting off tangent, but going back to what you said about energy, I do that a lot. Sorry.
That's okay.
Going back to what you said about the energy, you have to expend energy to clean it up now, to deal with it. And it's hard to do that. But when you have a goal in mind, give yourself a goal, whatever it may be. Maybe it's the holidays, people are coming over. Maybe you want to have people over. Maybe you want to have a tea party while your kids are at school with some other moms, whatever it is. Make a goal for yourself as to why you need to clean it up, which will help you to be hopefully a little less overwhelmed and a little bit more motivated to actually do that.
Yeah, I like how you're saying about being able to see the progress. I think that's a great idea because sometimes it does feel like we're just sort of putting out these little clutter fires
Right, right.
around us and not really seeing, the results and everything. So, yeah, I really like that idea.
Make sure you're actually doing something with the item that you pick up and not just putting it into on the counter in another room or on the bed or somewhere. You actually have to do something with it as opposed to just moving it from space to space, because that's not solving the problem at all.
Right. Yeah, I've heard that called the stuff shuffle. You're just moving it from one place to the next. So,
Yeah,
yes, we want to make decisions and take action. That's very important.
yep, absolutely.
Okay. So, one of the things I don't know as much about, although I have had some guests that talk about feng shui and kind of like the energetic aspects of our home, is sort of more of that energetic flow and how that impacts us and how clutter can be like an energetic block to that flow in our homes. So can you talk a little bit about that and like the benefits of being able to have that clear energy flow as opposed to
Yeah.
having the energy block?
Yes. So I can be a little woo woo. I can be very spiritual. I'm not necessarily religious, but I consider myself to be very spiritual. And with that, I studied a lot of religious science, and it goes back to even regular science. So, it's my personal belief that the clutter is negative energy. So when you have that negative energy sitting around, it's serving as a block for all the positive that's due you. Case in point, even for myself, if I'm super busy and my desk is an absolute mess, when I actually take the time to clear it up, the phone starts ringing incessantly, or new opportunities, in my business come about. It's odd how that happens, but it is a block. So, and I've seen it with clients, especially clients that are chronically disorganized. They, oftentimes have conflicts at work all the time, in relationships, both romantic and, just familial or friend relationships. They can have problems in pretty much any area with their health. It's just really weird how the negative energy of the clutter has these effects in all these other areas of their life. And they don't really relate it to that. But then when it gets cleared up, other things also end up clearing up and things start happening in a positive way for them. So that's why I say that the negative energy of the clutter is blocking the positive that is due you. And even try it as an experiment. Clean up something and see how it affects things. It can, because oftentimes it's also a matter of your mood and your attitude. And that affects how you interact with other people.
Mhm.
Because when you're in a bad mood, if you've just had a fight with your husband, wife, whatever it is, and you go out, sometimes that carries over to the salesperson in the store or whatever. They haven't done anything to you, but you're just angry, so you're snapping at someone else. But when you feel better because you've cleared the clutter now it's like, oh, you feel much lighter and you have a better interaction with people outside. So I just say try it. Not everybody's gonna buy into the woo-woo, but I buy into the woo-woo because it works for me. So whatever works for you, but just buy it. I mean, just try it.
Yeah.
But that's why I say that there's a huge interconnection between the physical clutter and or the negative energy and the resulting of the positive energy.
Yeah, and you mentioned, just being able to make room for the new, like just at a
Yes.
very basic level, like be whatever that might be, just you
Yeah.
can't, and I like to say, you can't receive what the universe has for you if you are clutching onto your stuff and always having to deal with that. You want to have this open-handed, I'm ready to receive kind of approach. But if we're just focusing so much on the clutter and being blocked by it, then that makes it kind of impossible. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. And to see clutter clearing as this spiritual practice or like a form of self-care, which a lot of people don't really necessarily see it. They see it as this chore or like kind of like this burden. And it's
It's
not,
absolutely self-care and
yeah.
wellness.
And it's kind of like you were saying at the beginning about working out. Like when we're in the middle of like a tough workout or like something like that, it's not necessarily fun in the moment, but then the result is that we are taking care of ourselves as a
Yes.
result. So, because I always tell people like decluttering, I wouldn't say is necessarily fun
Right, right.
for most people, but because it is decision making and it does require energy and time and everything. But the return on your investment is so much more, especially when it comes to being able to take care of yourself in a way that actually has an impact, unlike scrolling Instagram or whatever you're
Absolutely.
thinking is actual self-care. Well, this is amazing. I really appreciate your book and the insights. And again, the examples that you give, I feel like were really helpful. With
Oh, good.
17 years of experience, you have a lot of different examples, which is great. And so I would love it if you could tell people how they connect with you and then also where they can find the book.
Well, you can find me at my website, which is organized2harmonize.com, and that's the number two. I'm also on Instagram with the same name, organized number two harmonize. And the book is actually available right now in pre-orders on Amazon. And if you order it now, you actually get a bonus of a workbook, and I guess you'll put it in the show notes because you just have to send a proof of purchase to the publisher and then they will send the bonus to you, which does happen to be a handbook that goes along with the book, which is really cool.
Yay. Okay. Well, I'll be sure to put all of that in the show notes. And thank you so much, Robin, for coming on the show. Congratulations on the
Thank
new
you.
book. And I
I'm
can't
very
wait. Yeah, I can't wait for people to read it. So thanks again for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Hey, Mama, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, could you please share this episode with another mom who is feeling overwhelmed? Also, it would mean the world to me if you could leave a 5-star written review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Finally, if you would like more support, come on over to our free Facebook group, tinyurl.com/moms overcoming overwhelm. Can't wait to connect with you soon.